Jason Reynolds walked onto the factory floor dressed like an ordinary worker. No suit, no expensive watch, just a simple uniform. No one knew he was the CEO. He wanted the truth about his company. But when one worker unknowingly confessed his struggles to him, Jason's next move left everyone speechless. Jason adjusted the rough fabric of his borrowed uniform, blending into the sea of workers on the factory floor. No one gave him a second glance, and that was exactly what he wanted. As the CEO of Reynolds Manufacturing, he had spent years growing his company into an industry giant. But lately, rumors had reached him, whispers of overworked employees, poor conditions, a management team that cared more about profit than people. His executives had assured him everything was fine. But Jason didn't trust boardroom reports. He wanted the truth, and the only way to get it was to see it for himself. So, for the first time in his career, he walked into his own factory as a worker. The machinery hummed loudly as workers moved in synchronized chaos, hauling materials, assembling products, pushing through exhaustion. Jason picked up a wrench and got to work beside them. That's when he met David, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and grease-stained hands. His movements were skilled, but his posture screamed exhaustion. "New guy?" David asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. Jason nodded. "Yeah, just started." David chuckled humorlessly. "Welcome to the grind, buddy." They worked in silence for a moment before Jason asked, "Been here long?" David sighed. 12 years. His voice was heavy. Back when this company actually gave a damn about us. Jason's grip on the wrench tightened. "What do you mean?" David scoffed. "Management keeps cutting corners, pushing longer hours, freezing wages. They say they care, but we're just numbers to them." He exhaled sharply. "The CEO probably sits in some skyscraper, counting his millions while we break our backs keeping this place running." Jason felt a sharp pang in his chest. David had no idea who he was talking to, but every word hit like a punch. Then David muttered something that made Jason's stomach turn. "I used to believe in this company. Now, I just survive it." Jason's heart pounded. This wasn't just a bad day. This was a broken man. And suddenly, Jason knew he wasn't here to listen anymore. He was here to change everything. Jason's jaw tightened, but he forced himself to stay calm. Now wasn't the time to reveal who he was. He looked at David, really looked at him. The exhaustion in his eyes, the slump of his shoulders, the way his fingers trembled slightly from overwork. This was a man who had given everything to the company and gotten nothing in return. Jason exhaled. "You ever think about quitting?" David let out a hollow laugh. "Every damn day." He wiped grease off his hands, shaking his head. "But I've got kids, a mortgage, a wife who's already picking up extra shifts just to keep up. Where else am I gonna go?" Jason's chest tightened. This wasn't just about bad management. This was survival. Before he could respond, a sharp voice cut through the air. "David!" Jason turned just as a stocky man in a supervisor's vest stormed toward them. His name tag read, Carl. "What the hell are you doing standing around?" Carl snapped. "You think we pay you to chat?" David stiffened, his jaw clenching as he grabbed his tools. "Just showing the new guy the ropes." Carl sneered. "The new guy can figure it out himself. And you?" He jabbed a finger at David's chest. "You're already behind on your quota. Maybe if you stopped running your mouth, you'd actually keep up." Jason saw red. He had run countless businesses, sat in boardrooms with the most powerful people in the world. But never had he felt rage like this. Carl looked at him. "You, what's your name?" Jason kept his voice steady. "Jay." Carl scoffed. "Well, Jay, welcome to reality. You don't work, you don't eat. Got it?" Jason's fingers curled into fists. But before he could speak, David muttered, "It's fine. Not worth it." Jason looked at him, defeated. That's what David was. How many more employees felt the same way? How many had been beaten down like this? Carl smirked. See? Some people know their place. Jason's blood boiled. He had heard enough. He took a slow step forward, his voice calm but lethal. You're right, Carl. Carl snorted. Damn right I'm right. Jason smiled coldly. But here's what you're wrong about. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his company ID badge, and tossed it onto the table. Carl's smirk vanished. David's eyes widened in shock. The room fell dead silent. Jason straightened his posture, letting every ounce of his true power settle into his stance. My name isn't Jay, he said, voice dangerously quiet. It's Jason Reynolds, and I own this company. Carl's face went pale. David nearly dropped his wrench. Jason stepped closer, eyes locked onto Carl. You're fired. Carl's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Jason didn't look away. Pack your things. Now. Carl stumbled back, shaking, before rushing off in a panic. Then Jason turned to the rest of the stunned workers. From this moment forward, he announced, things are going to change around here. David blinked, still in shock. You're really the CEO? Jason met his gaze. Yes, and I just learned more in the past hour than I have in years of board meetings. He took a deep breath, then said the words that would change everything. Starting today, higher wages, fair hours, and a management team that actually respects the people keeping this company alive. The entire factory floor erupted in cheers. David? He just stood there, eyes glassy, before shaking his head with a chuckle. Well, damn. Jason grinned. Because for the first time in years he wasn't just a CEO, he was a leader,